Hello. I would like to, on behalf of the Foreign Department of the Academy of Fine Arts, I would like to welcome you in our space, in our new space in Abu Veletržní. And it is my pleasure to welcome, to invite Lisabona Rahman for her lecture. Lisabona is a part of a collective who is, 3 of the members are going to join us online today. And their focus is film theory, history, and restoration. So please, listen, come and share your knowledge and whatever you want to share with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I just directly sit down? Thank you. All right. Yes. And I guess to make it less stiff, because I'm basically a technician of film archives, so I'm not used to stand in front of you and say things to you. I would like to ask a colleague from NFA, Clara, for help to get us to know each other and just make it less formal, if that's all right. Clara, do you want to join me here? And with me,
should I have a microphone?
Yes. And with me, as you can see on the screen, are my 3 colleagues joining us from Jakarta. I will also ask Umi, Effie, and Julita to turn on their camera. Okay, so I'm Lisabona, and this is Effie. Effie, do you want to say something, introduce yourself?
Ahoy, I'm Effie. Now I live in Jakarta and really nice to be here with you all.
Julita, or as we call her, Juju, do you want to say something?
Ahoy too. I'm Juju. Nice to meet you guys, and thank you for inviting our collective to present our work for today.
And last but not least, Umi.
Ahoy, I'm Umi from Tangerang, Indonesia. Nice to see you all and thank you for coming to this event.
Okay, so we worked together for the past, almost 4 years now. And our collective is based in Indonesia, even if we are more or less moving a lot. And we try to focus our work on women's work in cinema history. We are here 4 people, but we are actually more, 2 more. And we have very different backgrounds. Umi is a film historian and film theory lecturer. Effie and I are both film restoration technician. And Julita, she's transitioning from film historian / film theory lecturer into also a film restoration preservation technician. And of course, probably you all do, like doing this work on film preservation requires a big team work. It involves a lot of skills that we don't always have in Indonesia. So I hope we can share with you a little bit how we try to work around all the things that let's say lacking in Indonesia to also try to take part in narrating our history. And here is Clara.
Ahoj, já jsem Klára, my name is Clara. Já jsem tady z Národního filmového archivu. I'm here from the National Film Archive in Prague. And I will be asking Lisabona like additional questions, but then of course the floor is also yours to ask Lisabona and KELAS LIARSIP collective more questions. So maybe my first question, if I can ask you, is like what role plays feminism in your collective organization, if you could talk about it. And also I would like to know how you were formed or how you met each other, like what's the story?
We will take turns in answering this question so that it's you see, when we get together as a team, obviously we're not like we're still individuals as well. So all of us, as we also have different backgrounds and skills, we have very different approaches to working as a collective. So I would invite actually the founding members, two founding members, to answer this question. First Effie and then Juju, because they were the original two. Effie, do you want to start?
Okay. Maybe I can share how I and Juju first time we initiate this class LIARSIP. So we are an alumni from film school in Jakarta, and back then in our class we never we never learn about film preservation or film archive. So we never hear about Ratna Asmara or Sofia Wede. Even we cannot watch the movie. And then I and Juju talk about it. I think it's important for us as a film student to know about film preservation, right? And then we make this discussion group with the film student and talk about the preservation. And then also we invite Lisabona to be the lecturer. But it's just two of us, and it's not enough energy to make it sustain. So it's off. And then in 2021, we met again, and we initiate this class LIARSIP because me and Juju really need to learn more about the film preservation. And then Lisabona came up in our mind, and we asked her to teach us about the film preservation, about the ethic, the theory, and etc. And then that's the first time we met, the three of us, and we start with tracing Ratna Asmara and Sofia Wede, and that is the moment when me, Juju, met Umi Lestari for the first time. It's from so we looking for the article and the archive about Ratna and Sofia Wede, and then we found it a scrapbook ordered by Umi Lestari, and it's a scrapbook about Ratna Asmara. And wow, there's who is she? And then we tell about this funding to Lisa, and suddenly Lisa know Umi, and why we don't invite Umi to join our class, because she's already start the research about Ratna Asmara. Maybe we can help her to continue the research. And then until now, we work together. Me and Lisa work as a practitioners, like film archivists, who help the researcher like Umi, who gets stuck with the material that she cannot see the movie back then, because there's no one who digitized the film. So I think this is the important work in class LIARSIP. That's for me. Maybe Juju, you can add something.
I think every explanation is quite detailed. It's like exactly from the beginning. Maybe just to add a little thing, our virtual class group was started during the pandemic. So it's kind of like also really hard for us to exactly like meet in person. And I think like the spirit of like try to wondering like why we haven't got any exposure about women film director in Indonesia, or we kind of feel like there are still lack of Indonesian film history books or reference. It's something that the spirit that make Kelas LIARSIP always have a meeting like every Friday night, and we kind of like keep discussing again and again. And the things that I kind of feel like from class leadership, we also learn how to criticize every archival materials that we found, especially like newspaper during the 1930s, 1950s era during Ratna Asmara's time. And like the knowledge is never come to one person, but it's come like from all of us. So it's like it's quite democratic, like from us to all of us. And until I think the class happened like around three batch from March until like around September 2021. And at the end of the day, we kind of like we should make this project happen. And yeah, we start to make a proposal, and yeah, start to make Ratna Asmara project happen.
Okay, thank you so much. And then maybe one more question that would be interesting here for the audience if they are trying to do a similar or form similar collectives. Is how you get funding, or is it like is this research on female filmmakers in Indonesian history? Is it your like, I don't want to say hobby, but a thing that you do like after your working hours, or is it your full-time job, or how do you manage to combine that with your other life obligations?
Well, we certainly cannot be doing this for our full-time job. There is simply nobody who wants to employ us doing it. Maybe this also, in a way, explains or illustrates in a sad way something that makes us very angry, that institutions don't really care about tracing the historical part of women workers in the film scene throughout the history. So we unfortunately have to be working like after hours. Each one of us have day jobs, either as a freelancer or full-timer, and most of us have families to take care of. But we try to combine like different resources from ourselves, from different institutions that have helped us, like for example yourself here, NFA, the iFilm Museum in Amsterdam, or Arsenal Film Institute in Berlin, and probably Umi can explain much more about how we also write, different proposals to the Indonesian government so that we could get some small grants. But yeah, all that also to say that it's a bit like an expensive hobby. Yeah, that we cannot be doing it to make a living. Umi, maybe you want to say something about how we get funds?
Maybe I want to add a little bit context here why we brought up Ratna Asmara as well, because as we already know that the digitization and restoration in Indonesia, it started in the 2010, but up until Kelas LIARSIP doing Ratna projects, there are only one film from a female director that had been digitized. And in 2020, when I started to look up at the tracing of the female director in Indonesia, as Effie said, that I found a deadlock. I cannot see the film. And then when I'm joining the KELAS LIARSIP, we work together to be able to screen Ratna Asmara's film in the public. So yeah, about the funding, I think KELAS LIARSIP project can be seen that we push the stakeholders to be able to see that they are fail in recognizing the female director in Indonesia, and we are able to get the funding from the government, and the government also supported us to be able to digitize and made several publication about Ratna Asmara project. So initially, as I remember, in the official way, when we started to propose this project to the government, to the Ministry of Culture and Education and Research, they only fund us for making film Rangkai Ratna Asmara and also publication on our research in the book Ratna Asmara Perempuan di Dua Sisi Kamera. And after that, after this one, after our project gets blow up by several institutions like, yeah, in the Eiffel Museum, Amsterdam, and also Arsenal Berlin, and some of the screening like in the LIARSIP for private screening, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the government suddenly continuing this project into the restoration program in the 2023. But yeah, that's a little bit story about the funding and the context why the stakeholders finally funding us to be able to digitize this.
And maybe for any of you who has written a proposal, you probably know that you cannot be writing a proposal about something unknown, right? Something that is not famous. It's a big challenge to get or convince people, especially governments, to support you when you want to do unknown things. So we try to find a workaround to this problem, starting with a small short-term research project which lasted for 9 months in 2022, which, as Umi said, resulted in a book and short documentary series about us researching Ratna Asmara. So in a way, we have to try to make her known by making us known to the public as a collective. And then we started applying for digitization, which was back then, we kind of blanketed under the project of making this short documentary. So we couldn't even be talking about restoration at that time because we simply don't know if restoration was possible. I hope that answers the question.
I think yes. And maybe one last question about your collective work or organizing. How do you make decisions? Because film restoration, there is like a million decisions in each step. So do you decide, do you vote, do you decide everybody has to agree on the final decision, or how are you organized? Is it more hierarchical? Somebody says how it should look like?
I just do all the decisions and they follow. No, I think everyone wants to answer this question, no?
Well, we believe in feminist collective, so we we have that value. So every decision, every idea, we always talk about it in the our virtual classroom, and one of us say about the pro and cons if we make this, or we're not doing this, or yeah, something like that. So everything is decided by all of us. And yeah, and I think everyone has want to do something, and then ask us how we can help, and yeah, something like that. So I don't know, I answered the question or not. Yeah.
Anybody else wants to say something? I saw that Juju turns on her microphone.
Yeah, maybe I just want to add like a decision that was being discussed during the moment about the condition of 35 millimeter copy print of Dr. Samsi, one of Ratna Asmara films that perhaps you guys will watch it tomorrow in Kino Ponrepo. Um, uh, I still remember that moment. We kind of like talk about the reason why we kind of like keep the decay or the deteriorations element within the films. Instead of we do the digital cleaning, we kind of like maintain it. And I still remember it actually like comes from Lisa, and we discuss it together that is a way for us to make a political statement about the general conditions of film material that exists in the global south region. And and also like for me as a person that came from a film scholar, or with a theoretical background on let's say like a film signification or semiology, I kind of found it quite interesting to like read the film that still maintain the decay element, and how we as an audience or as a reader uh, found some sort of like disruption during the reading process. And it's kind of like also like the way for the film material to speak about its conditions, the condition that being neglected not just by the environment, but also like by the government and the system within that country.
And maybe for somebody who dropped in this class for this lecture and has never heard of Ratna Asmara, could you quickly just introduce who she was and why you were researching it, or why are you still researching her work?
We started our learning process actually not really knowing so much if we want to be studying a concrete author in the history of Indonesian filmmaking. So actually our learning process started from archival sciences, not so much about film history. But when we finished this series of readings of archival theories and approaches, and then we thought, okay, this is time to practice. What do we do now? And then we thought, okay, let's take as example two filmmakers, one Ratna Asmara and the other one Sofia Wede, as our model or case study to apply the critical archival theories that we have been learning together. And this is the point where we said, oh, wait a minute, you know, it's already a lot to handle one stream of research about one person, because the materials are hardly there. We were really simply quite shocked how difficult it was to find materials on one woman filmmaker, let alone two, even if they are actually pretty famous. But they were both famous as actresses. So once we want to focus looking into the biography, which is obviously more complex than just some gossip columns in newspapers, then we realize, okay, this is harder than we thought it would be. And then we started saying, okay, let's start from the earlier one, Ratna Asmara, and then that's the point where Umi's research came in, because she already was interested in Ratna Asmara. And one of the most important documents that we could find from Ratna Asmara was this film that she directed in 1952. It was sitting in the private archive in Jakarta. It's called Cinematek Indonesia. And by herself, Umi went to Cinematek Indonesia and was trying to see the film. Like, you know, I came to NFA this morning trying to see a print. And it was obvious on that day when Umi was at the Cinematek Indonesia that the film material was way too decayed to be screened on a moviola. So it's like a manual access table that you can put films on, which is quite mild. It's not like a projector, but still, even to put it on a moviola was already very challenging. And after seeing, I think, a part of Reel 1, Umi decided to stop because she was too scared about ruining the material. And so Effie and I, upon learning about this challenge, we thought, okay, that is something we can obviously help. Being technicians, we could see the material and work with it and find other technicians who would be willing to digitize it for us. And so we see this whole practical process as, you know, something that is a little bit makeshift. We don't have a clear idea of what kind of research methodology we can employ, but we rather try to see how we can deal with problems that we find, you know, in front of us. And this is not only just a problem on the level of film material. Maybe Umi and even Juju can also tell us about other materials like news or writings about Ratna, how we managed to collect some of the materials. Because if you just go to a library, you don't find it. You don't find these materials. Who wants to go first? Umi? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I will add something. Yeah, in 2020, when I first started to search about Ratna Asmara, I found that her archive is really limited in the Cinematek Indonesia. It is less than the other male directors because, yeah, as we know, in the Indonesian film history itself, the one was always the father or the male directors. And after that, in the second batch of the research, when we're doing it in the 2022, me and Juju working together to compile or to find another thing. Like for me, because I have a networking with the second-hand market in the online in the Instagram, I asked them to find many magazines that relate to Ratna Asmara. And for this period, I found several magazines, several news that wrote about how she directed her third film and her first film. And after that, in the Arts Library of Indonesia, the center, yeah, or Perpusnas, different magazines that it is probably a female magazine that talks about gossips and so on. And we found also the story about Ratna Asmara personal life through this gossip column. And also we try to find another archive in the Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia or National Archive of Indonesian Republic. And we find behind the scene when Ratna became an actor for a film titled, I forgot the title, but it was produced in 48. And based on this archive, me as a historian tries to reconstruct Ratna's figures through making a kind of long biography that was published in our book, and that's the thing we tries to compile together to be able to imagining what Ratna Asmara looks like, why she participated in the Danela or theater troupe company, and also what's the context why she become part also in the transnational production during Dr. Samsi was filmed in India in 36, and until I find also her connection with the feminist thinkers in the 40s and also 50s. Maybe you want to add something?
Yeah, I guess there was also misleading newspaper articles and even historians who says that the first Indonesian woman film director was Sofia. So actually the second person that we were trying to research parallelly. And we obviously found out it's not correct, because Ratna Asmara actually directed film 11 years before Sofia directed her first film. So all this, this idea about always having the first women director like a lot later and ignoring the ones that came before was probably what kind of drove us quite mad. And therefore, of course, we have no way of proving at the moment that there were other women directors that come before Ratna as yet. So at the moment, we could just say that she's probably the earliest woman's name that we could find credited on a film as a director. So yeah, that makes her super important for us.
And do you have any idea or theory why she was remembered only as an actress, and that why her directing work was totally erased by the history? Or
you want juicy gossips, or
do you, from the audience, do you want juicy gossips?
Yeah.
Yes.
We, as Umi was saying, that news about her comes much more from gossip columns in newspapers. So far, nobody seems to be interested in writing about her directorial style or her choice of stories. Ratna was married to the guy who actually wrote the script of Dr. Samsi and who was the director in both the theater troupe that they both belong together, and also he was seen as one of the predecessors of Indonesia's father of national cinema. So our conclusion so far is that Ratna, and not only Ratna, but other women directors are kind of eclipsed because they were somebody's wife or somebody's sister, and therefore they kind of stay in the background, like relegated to more domestic aspect or support system. And when they do come out and be acknowledged, it's through their position as movie star, you know, somebody pretty to look at. I don't know, maybe, yeah, Umi wants to say something.
So the film you will see tomorrow, Dr. Samsi, is basically, the writer of the script is Anjar Asmara, and he always overshadow Ratna achievement in the filmmaking. That's why his peers or Anjar Asmara friends like Usmar Ismail, the father of Indonesian cinema, never mention Ratna Asmara and credit her directional debut. But when I see a magazine, when there was a gossip about a divorce between Ratna and Anjar in 52, and this is before the production of Dr. Samsi, I imagine that Ratna Asmara made a new version of Dr. Samsi because Ratna Asmara itself always dituduh tuh apa ya?
Apa?
Dituduh tuh apa sih?
Accused.
Always accused only using Anjar Asmara name. But in Dr. Samsi, later you will see that all of the POV in the film is based on the main character or the female character or the heroine in the film. But in the original version of Dr. Samsi written by Anjar Asmara, the version or the POV is Dr. Samsi. So Ratna Asmara is a director making an adaptation shift that it is related to the woman voice, and I think it is time to reconsider what kind of Ratna Asmara strategy as a director. Maybe.
And when were they divorced?
52, before Dr. Samsi produced.
Yeah, so what you will see tomorrow will be the direct result of this conflict. Like, you know.
Maybe I would like to invite you all for the screening tomorrow. It's tomorrow at 6 p.m. In Ponrepo Cinema, and if you are a AWU student, you can just show your card at the entrance and you get free entrance. So this was just a teaser. Would you like to continue with the presentation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would like to show you a little bit of our current state of work. So our work together is divided into several chapters. Not that we planned it that way, it's just that, you know, when we finish one chapter or if we run out of resources, we stop and then we kind of pick it up later or in a different way. So at the moment, after starting off with the research and digitizing the film, the result of which you will see tomorrow, and now we are in the middle of restoring the film. So what you will see tomorrow is a raw result of digitization. You will see that it is in quite a bad state. And it is very hard to read it as an aesthetic text. But as Juju was explaining, we prefer to show it this way because where we come from, this is actually the reality of how we access materials from our film history. So we always need like several steps of clouded reading, so to speak, before we can arrive with our conclusion about certain history of a work or even preference. So let me just start sharing my screen. So we call this making sense of elusive traces because apart from the film materials and some news and advertisement from this film, Dr. Samsi, which is Ratna Asmara's third film. So we don't really have extensive materials to start the restoration from. And so we had to start our work by really looking into the material and question what is it that we want to do with it. Like knowing that we have very limited resources, we have to get money as we go along. And consciously, we also decided that we wanted to work in Indonesia, so not send the film material somewhere, like for example to a professional lab in, I don't know, Japan, Italy, because simply we don't have money for it and we cannot raise money for, again, like an unknown director. So we decided, okay, what if we try to see what is present inside of the country and try to go as far as we can with restoring it. I'm going to skip the part about KELAS LIARSIP because we talked about it, but I would like to say a little bit about, I'm sorry, I cannot bring this away. Oh, there I am. Is that okay? Yeah. Somehow women's work are very much left unacknowledged. And here I want to share a bit of a trivia that we just found actually very recently, about, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. An article that was written in 1979 at Cinematheque Indonesia, where this film is being stored, which is a comparison between, you know, how many Indonesian women director we had in Indonesia in 79 in comparison to Czechoslovakian film director. I thought it was very, I mean, we cannot really answer why this direct comparison was made. It will be very interesting to see if, you know, you also have something in correspondence in your archive, some kind of communication that explains this relationship. And to conclude this trivia, I also want to say that out of almost 150 film titles that has been digitized using public funds since 2013, there are only 2 films made by women director. One is Halimun by Sofia Wede, and the second is Dr. Samsi by Ratna Asmara. We try to do the restoration. I mean, there are obviously a lot of reasons why we do restoration, but for us, restoration is a complementary strategy to study women's work. So we have no commercial ambitions, and maybe also to say that we do, or it is possible, let's say we question if we will eventually be able to conduct a restoration with a philological result. There is simply not enough material or source material where we could argue that this is philological. If we go through, you know, the classical restoration method, like with what we can prepare. So far, this is what we have. We have 5 reels of a positive copy in very bad condition. We have 7 reels of original camera negative, so picture negative. And then we also have 7 reels of optical sound negative. Please don't be fooled, like when we say 7 reels of camera negative, 7 reels of optical sound negative, they look like, okay, they correspond, but they actually don't. Meaning that we have incomplete picture negative and incomplete sound negative, and as always in restoration, they don't correspond. So when you have like good picture, you don't have good sound. And we start to try to put together what is at hand, what the condition would be, and we would try to create a proposition of editing that combines these 2 materials. So we created a spreadsheet, document the availability of the materials, and create a new editing version that comes from combination of these 3 different materials: the positive copy, original picture negative, and original sound negative. Maybe I need to also add that the picture negative and sound negative are not entirely edited. So there are edits which resembles the edit that we see in the positive copy, but they're not identical. So how do we edit? We try to use the positive copy as the main editing reference, and this is really, really difficult because the positive element has lost a lot of its part due to projecting damages. Or at least in the beginning we thought it was only projector's damage, but later we also realized that there was some sort of edit decision that we cannot really be sure about where it comes from, whether it comes from censorship or actual editing. This remains a riddle still. We cannot really solve this riddle yet. And we try to reconstruct the 3 elements to become our restoration result. But then the next problem arises because all 3 elements have very different quality. Like the positive sound and picture has much better quality than the positive copy, which is our reference. Yet, I mean, even if it's in a very bad state, the positive copy provided quite interesting information for us, especially about editing decisions, like where the shots are cut. And it also has very funny way of cutting, like some very, I mean, maybe our contemporary eyes are no longer used to seeing these jump cuts in the middle of shots. But when we compare it to the outtakes in the picture negative, or especially sound negative, we could see that these jump cuts were made to avoid repetitive information, or sometimes the actor would say like the wrong names of another character. So it's a way to correct the production mistakes. And it was also very clear to our loss, actually, that this film has a lot of music diegetically. But this music was separately recorded. One was even recorded as live performance, as one long part of the wedding scene. And exactly these materials are not available in the sound negatives that we found. So we have to basically live with very bad music in our restoration. And the last thing that we noted, it's very interesting for us that no editor's name was credited in the opening sequence of the film. Again, we cannot really explain why. Maybe he or she did like such bad decisions, so was not worth to be credited. Yeah, we don't know. But certainly no editors were credited. Now I guess I will not be able to show you everything that we have, but if you're interested, we can of course sit like privately and show more. But I want to show you one of the examples of the comparison. Just a little note, when you see the two frames, the frames in if there are two, one is positive and on the right hand side is the picture negative. So you could see that the element on the left, the positive, has a lot of missing frames, right? So every time it jumps to black, that means the frame doesn't exist. And it took some time for us to be able to differentiate which one was like accidents, because in restoration you have to make a difference or argue which ones are mistakes or accidents and which ones are edit decision. So some of these links are actually editing decisions that create sort of a jump cut for the shot. You will probably see it much clearly in the copy that you see tomorrow, like how the jump cuts were done. And how do I go back? Alt tab. Yes. And I want to jump into, this is another example. I hope I can show it to you in relative ease. No? Doch.
Apa Ibu Claudia?
So what you see now is a very emotional scene that was in the picture negative, but it's not included in the positive. Then it comes back. So, you know, as restorers, we're like, why? Why did you cut there? But after going through it, like a lot of times we realized that it was a decision. It was not maybe a decision that was made not solely due to aesthetic concerns, but we don't know if social values was considered or whether censorship values were also considered, but it was clear somehow that the filmmaker decided she or he did not want this hugging scene to be shown in the film, despite it being an action between mother and son. So part of the challenges, of course, of creating this edit decision is that we were fooled a lot when we were seeing the film as a very decayed and damaged positive copy, because we thought a lot of things were simply missing or, you know, lost due to damages. But then we realized, okay, it's much more complicated than that, and we have to make the difference between creating remedies for these damages and respecting the editing decisions. I also have some maybe things to share about image restoration. I mean, we all now work probably with intermediate workflow. In Indonesia, it is impossible for us to work in full analog workflow because we don't have a surviving lab anymore. So we are doing this in full analog workflow, meaning that we do not create any analog prints out of this process. And if you do it digitally, and if we are doing it with technicians who are not familiar with restoration process, then obviously a lot of ethical decisions are coming into surface. Like, for example, if we say, okay, let's, as an aim of the restoration, let's create a new version, a restored version that is clearer so that we understand how Ratna Asmara directed her film. But in technical level, what does that mean? Like, does it mean, like with the picture that you see on the left, like, does it mean that we clean each scratch, each decay sign from the image? The same that we do from the picture negative? If yes, then we have to employ quite aggressive or extensive amount of AI tools, which I think up to this date is very, very dynamically contested within film restoration scene. Simply because, I mean, I'm not saying that we are against, like in the restoration scene, we are against using AI in general. But we are bound by an ethics to document the kind of intervention that we do when we restore. And alone with digital technology, it's already hard to do because we cannot really figure out, the machine is like the black box, right? We cannot really pinpoint exactly what is being done to each frame, to each pixel in the frame. And with AI, it's even more complicated because the algorithm is simply impossible to separate in the way that we can be accountable as restorers. So I would want to discuss this, like, you know, if you have experiences engaging with this question. It's just that for us to be able to achieve certain clarity, we choose to use this AI tool. We understand that we will be challenged in terms of how to document the results. And we are also aware that we work with technicians who are not familiar with restoration workflow, but what we want to do in the next step is to create a documentation together with the technician that can be a documentation that is accountable for the digital workflow that we are doing. Okay, maybe this will be my last slide. I mean, I also have a sample of audio to show, but probably this is less illustrative than grading issues that we are currently also facing. You see the quality of the positive copy on the bottom right. This gives us very little credible information about how the film was graded, and it's very uneven. So when it comes to decide how this film should be graded, you see how different the source materials look like digitally. And so the question that we are facing at the moment is, how do we create a film that is more or less unified I cannot say uniform because a film is never uniform, but unified so that it doesn't look like a stroboscope all through, you know, the result. But at the same time, also respect in a way that this film is a mix of different quality of the material. So we have to reconcile a tension between creating a version that is honest enough, that you, when you see it, you know that it is departing from a very damaged material. But then on the other hand, how to make it enjoyable from start to finish. Something that you will experience yourself when you see the digitized version of the copy tomorrow. That, you know, this is how much problem of clarity that there is. Yeah, so with that, I guess first I say thank you, and before that, maybe I can show you 1 minute of the work in progress. So, thank you for for listening. And if you have any questions or you want to talk either today or tomorrow after seeing the raw materials, I'll be very happy to engage. And if you want to talk to all of us, please send us an email or engage us through Instagram.
Who wants to start? Anyone?
Should I go back to the...
But I'm afraid there's going to be a bit silly question because now the final, you know, like this 1 minute screening. At one point on the left side there was like really nothing, only like black spaces, and on the right side there was like real story still.
Yeah.
So how from this like kind of magic how you could have restored this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. This is exactly the perfect example of what I was talking about. How, you know, AI provides us with this possibility, even if the materials don't really provide us with the information. So the algorithm of artificial intelligence allow us to recreate certain movements. This I find very highly challenging. If, you know, even as a researcher, so if I could divide myself into two as a researcher, I'm happy about this possibility of imagining how it is. And in tomorrow you will see it. If you see the positive copy, you see this movement actually in the positive copy. So it is actually quite crazy how this machine can reconstruct quite close to the original movement, how the movement was. So it's like I cannot use the the real frame to reconstruct this, but I have a reference that looks exactly like this. So where is my position? You know, I choose to take what the AI suggested because I can corroborate it with the positive copy. But really, if you ask me to now here, how do I document it as a restorer? I don't know. Because the AI, the AI maybe gives me numbers, but I cannot, you know, if tomorrow another restorer would read it, what can be deduced from it? That I don't know yet. I'd be happy if you have a suggestion.
The scan, if you keep the scan available, and also as you do now per lecture, so then it's documentation to keep both sequences to certain points. Of course, you cannot have the algorithm of all the manipulation of the machine, that's the imagination of the machine. But still you can see, but maybe it would be, yeah, it's not my information. We have a question later.
Maybe continue and later you can discuss or continue with the next question and then the documentation.
So first I would like to thank you very much for your lecture, but also for your work as a collective, because recently I came across many, a few cases of, research being done on women being behind some pieces of works of art, be it film, or now there's an exhibition of Lucy Moholy in Kunsthalle, so also a woman that was connected to Bauhaus and was not known about, or Fanny Mendelssohn, who was a sister of a composer, and again it appeared that she was the author of many of the musical pieces that he made. And so thank you for this work, because there's more women everywhere, so we should keep looking and promoting them. But also my question is, what is the story of you being connected to the National Film Archives? Because it's not known to me, so I suppose it's not only because of the Czechoslovakia mentioned in the newspaper. So what's the story?
Well, it goes quite a long way. I met Matej Strnad when I was studying actually in Amsterdam, and Matej was doing comparative research about training for film preservation and archivists, also about curatorial, I suppose. So we had very informal connection, and every time we would meet in different forums, either it's a conference for archives, we would exchange stories of what we work on, where we are, and slowly it became quite clear that there are a lot of things and concerns also that we share, especially seeing that the heritage of cinema or audiovisual in general is very uneven, right? I mean, it is probably much easier for us everywhere in the world to access classical films from Hollywood or Europe, the big industry films. But when we talk about other parts of the world, Czech films, Indonesian films, even Indian films, for example, one of the biggest industry in the world, then we would pause. We simply don't know enough and we don't see enough. So I guess embarking from those early moments, we start developing other talks. And with that, I ask you to continue the story. And no, Clara too,
There's many colleagues who have, it's a small world of actually people in film archiving and film preservation. So it's a small world, and we are all friends and colleagues, I'd say. But to that, actually, my very brief question would go to you and the collective in us here now sharing the room also with people and students and faculty of the Academy of Fine Arts and people who are from fine arts and contemporary art scene. And I'm thinking, like, if you, in your experience in what you do, not only the restoration but the sort of larger goals of your collective, the advocacy and the research, if you've been able to tap into the other maybe collectives or say initiatives or actions or just the contemporary art scene in Indonesia, which lately has been seen globally quite thriving, obviously with Documenta and other venues. So if there's any connection or sort of successful liaison or alliance that you were able to strike with people coming from fine arts or visual arts, because you all presented yourselves as coming from film. We are also coming from film mostly, and we are glad to share the room with Avil and with fine arts. So I like this connection, and I kind of see it happening more and more often.
Yes, I mean, this is just from my perspective. I'm sure my three colleagues have also more experiences to share. I'm part of another feminist collective, which is like roughly translated the School of Women's Thought. And this is a more interdisciplinary collective. Some of us are writers, visual artists, filmmakers, historians, researchers, and we try to encourage each other to develop also in each discipline, like more research into feminist predecessors. And we have a forum each year to create like a broadcast, like a short video presentation with what we can find from this feminist predecessor. And some of us are also starting to research into not only biographies, but also the works of women and feminist painters. Like one of the founders of School of Women's Thought, for example, researched a painter who roughly lived the same era as Ratna Asmara. Emiria Sunasa is her name, and did her whole PhD work on the works of Emiria Sunasa. So what we do here is just one out of so many feminist initiatives, and we constantly support and be supported also by colleagues from the visual arts. But maybe I also want to invite Umi, because Umi is not only an art historian, film historian, but she also does a lot of research into visual arts.
I'm sorry, Mbak Ratna. Mbak Lisa.
Mbak Lisa.
Lisa, sorry, pertanyaannya apa nih?
Apakah ada inisiatif yang beririsan dengan seni rupa? Misalnya kita dengan seni rupa atau inisiatif feminis dengan seni rupa?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as Lisa already mentioned, Ratna Asmara project is one of the example from another project that appears or emerge in Indonesia nowadays. But personally, I also work with the Fine Art Archive, and in 2021, I was able to create an exhibition in the National Gallery of Indonesia. It talks about the exile leftist artists that previously fly to China and then moved to East Germany and then to the Netherlands, because he became the like political exile due to the tragedy 65. But when I see or comparing Basuki Rasabowo, the artist name, Basuki Rasabowo Archive and Ratna Asmara Archive, they live in the same period, and Basuki Rasabowo also works with Ratna Asmara during Japanese occupation in Indonesia in 43 until 45. Basuki Rasabowo as an artistic director, he works with Ratna Asmara and Anjar Asmara Theater Troupe. And also, Basuki Rasabowo itself is art director for the first national film from Indonesia, where he put or he give a sense of modern art through the mise-en-scene or mise-en-scène of the film. So that's the thing. That's the example where Ratna Asmara project can be integrated or apa ya, beririsan tuh apa Mbak? Intersecting with the other discipline, because well, from the archival research, I found that the intellectual during 50s and during 40s Indonesia, especially for who choose the creative industry path like film or art or literature, they are like kind of have a friendship and they supports each other. So that's it.
Menjawab kan ya? Does it answer?
Yes, thank you so much. Can I pass the mic for the next question?
Yeah.
And thank you so much that you are still awake in Indonesia because it's super late. What time is there now? Midnight or something?
+5, so it's 10:30.
Yes. So I think you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have two questions. One is about sound, which really interested me because of the quality. I don't know anything about sound restoration, and people often only talk about the image and not the sound, and I just wonder how is the process and how were you able to kind of recover, and also in what quality did you find the sound in the snippet that you showed us? And the second question is more in the beginning of how we talked about that in the collective you also have other jobs and many different things to do in life, and I just wonder how do you see, I mean you are part of two collectives, but maybe I ask the question to everyone of how, if you see kind of in the future only focused on the collective labor. I also work with a collective, and that's some big topic that comes up of how to manage it when you have 1,000 other things going on in life, and not to also take it out on each other and kind of continue doing the work which you get really underappreciated for oftentimes, or not really institutionally supported, or if you see in the future any changes within that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to start with the first question and then probably answer the second one together. I have a sample of the two sound elements. If you have time, I would like you to listen to them. And it's really crazy, you know, how much we can miss from not having good sound. Language is one of the most important aspects. When we restore a film from a copy that's already like chopped off in the projector, then words go missing, right? And this is something we cannot, not like picture algorithm where I can just recreate something using AI. With sound, it's less possible. I don't know if someday in the future we will manage to do this, but with speech, it's almost impossible. With music, it's already quite possible, I heard. the sound engineer who helped us restore the sound actually proposes, would you like to, you know, test this? I'm too afraid, I think, because the way that this can be allowed is that we have to upload the raw material, and then some kind of cloud app will divide, you know, musical instrument or whatever, and then kind of recreate using the logic of the progression. So I decided to draw a line there. I said, okay, no, I don't want to do that. But we are really missing something, you know, like it feels like, okay, at least in the image side, we have this intangible way of imagining what it could be like. With sound, I feel that it is less possible. And when I heard 2 seconds of samples of what could have been done with AI, it simply broke my heart, because, you know, these are not words anymore. It's illegible language. So maybe somewhere in the world the technology actually exists. Things that I'm not aware about, or I cannot access yet. But I have to tell you, from this experience, sound and language is a lot more difficult to treat. And if you I mean, this is narrative film, right? So we have acting in it, how people speak, tone. These nowadays, again, is more and more possible to recreate with AI. But if we depart from material that is very damaged and unclear, we simply cannot do it. You can do it if, you know, you're missing a speech from very, very clear source. Like if I speak now and some parts is missing, I can feed it to the AI, it will be recreated fine. But in this case, because our material is already a lot damaged, so the imperfection will also be recreated. And for me, that is really no solution. Yeah. Second question with collective work. Let me ask if any of my colleagues would like to contribute to that. Kalian dengar pertanyaannya? Nggak jelas. Oke, di pekerjaan kolektif kita, kadang-kadang kan kalau kerja kolektif banyak hal yang memberatkan ya, dan sering bikin konflik gitu. Nah, bagaimana LIARSIP memanage kerja kolektifnya, bagi-baginya selama ini supaya nggak timpang gitu bebannya?
Okay, maybe I can start. Five of us live in different city. Back then, Juju in New York and Lisa and Imelda in Berlin. So me and Umi in Indonesia. And so we, when we have to do the discussion or the screening in Indonesia, of course, me and Umi will be there. But then when the discussion or screening held in other place like Berlin or in New York, Juju and Umi will be there. So I think it's important for us to, like know the capacity of one of, can you help me to translate? Like kita tahu kapasitas teman-teman kita sehingga kita tuh bisa saling ngisi gitu loh.
So we try to take into account the capacity of each members and try to react accordingly, like not put too much on somebody who has low capacity.
Yeah, and then the other thing also, we don't push each other because we know that we have the limit. We're only 5 people and with limited energy, so we work as long as we can. That's it.
Yeah.
Díky, já nevím, jestli mám moc času, já jsem mám 2 otázky. Jedno je... Oh, I'm sorry. You're lucky I didn't speak French. I'm studying mixing languages all the time, sorry. So I have 2 questions. One is is a window question, and the other one is a hug question about examples you show. So the window question is, I really think it's a real chance to have multidisciplinary collective as you have, because then you have another point of view, and as you talked about the collective decisions, I was wondering, is like Umi, as like also fine art specialist, if you how do you look at the decision about the feeding the lack of image this way that it's invisible, actually, because I have the feeling that, and this is, I use the opportunity that we have in AVU to ask this here and not maybe tomorrow. That's how it is to have something, some reparation that is totally, like not totally, but that it's quite invisible for the viewer. And did you have a reflection, a collective reflection about that? This is a window question. And I have a hug question, and the hug question is about a question about did you know if there were more than one print that was in the exploitation? And then if not, if the editing decision was, we have a possibility because of the splice or some other elements that would make things that the splice is from the period of release, or can we imagine that another possibility would be that the sequence was quite later on, someone wanted to keep the hug for himself, or a cinema theater owner would decide that the hug is not good enough for his public or something like that. Sorry, lots of questions.
Umi seems to have gone missing.
Bisa approve nggak? Dia udah masuk di ruang tunggu.
Can we see her in the waiting room, please? Oh yeah, here. Okay, maybe I can repeat the question in Indonesian. Umi udah bisa dengar aku ya? Udah. Pertanyaannya gini, kalau pas Umi lihat sebagai orang yang juga terlibat di seni rupa, kalau Umi pas lihat hasil restorasi yang ngebersihin, kayak misalnya pasin Ratna sama bayinya itu loh, kan di elemen negatif ada bagian-bagian yang emang hancur banget gitu, dan kita recreate pakai algoritma AI gitu. Nah, secara etis, kalau dari pengalamanmu sebagai peneliti, sebagai juga pemerhati seni rupa, gimana posisimu melihat ini gitu? Ini refleksi kolektif kita juga gitu tentang etika restorasi. Tapi mulai dari Umi dulu.
Okay, so because so for me the experience with KELAS LIARSIP is a really first experience because prior to working with KELAS LIARSIP, I only works with the film that already been there, or a film that was clean, film that was there are a lot of efforts to make the restoration project can be done in the previous periods for the Indonesian classic film. So for me, this is quite challenging for me, because I should to adapting myself to see the what imperfect image, and then and I know that this experience cannot be not many scholars or not many academics can get this experience, because this is also related to the global south situation, when you can find many decay image. And then yeah, I'm still learning about that, but when I see the comparison between the decay one or the digitized version one and the restoration one, my first thinking was I should appreciate to the team, because yeah, there are a lot of efforts to make this film to be able to be screened with a good image. And I know that this is also belongs to how public or how the audience wants to get the good image, because as we know, we already consume film from Netflix or film with 4K HD and so on and so forth. So yeah, for me, I'm still learning about that. And when this has also become nuts for me as a researcher, because when I want to interpret Ratna Asmara's film, I cannot neglect the efforts to digitize this film, and also to apa ya, ya upaya untuk mempercantik ini dan membuatnya jadi bisa diterima sama publik yang lebih luas gitu. Jadi itu sih sebenarnya masih jadi hambatan gitu Mbak. Bukan hambatan, tapi jadi pertanyaanku dan refleksiku juga ke untuk si Dr. Samsi.
So the last sentence means that for Umi, a lot of questions remains, especially about how to conduct this restoration or evaluate it ethically, also taking into account how the public would see it. And so it stays like a question for Umi. Juju mau ikut komentar apa?
Hello. Yes. It's such an interesting question, to be honest. But if you ask about like how is our reflection as a collective, I kind of feel as a collective, it's also increase the awareness regarding the condition of film material in our country, and how does it affect the historiographical writing. There was ever be a talk in our field 12 class, because we remember that they say like if we kind of like adopt the concept from cinema novo, there was this like imperfect cinema from Solanas and Gestino, and then it's also adopted again into the imperfect archive. And we kind of like wondering how does it also affect the idea of imperfect historical writing, or yeah, imperfect historical record. So like everything that is imperfect is kind of like affecting several chains within the way we understand our past, present, and even like it's affected the future. And I kind of feel like the reflection is never ending. It always be again and again. I mean, like it's kind of like depends on the process of us like encountering all the material regarding Ratna Asmara and everything surrounding her. So we kind of like enjoying like meeting all this fragmented material. For example, like the ones that Lisa's present about bulletin cinematics that just recognize Ratna Asmara and other Czechoslovakia women director is also something new. We just like recently found it out. So yeah, I kind of feel like it always open up so many layer and it's never stop. So like the discourse is still going on. And yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, and just to add a final sentence before engaging in the second question, I feel that documentation is extremely important in this case because, and how we also attach it to the restoration result so that, you know, nobody sees it and think, I don't know what they would think, but I think what's important for us is to illustrate in the most efficient and short way possible that this result is the result of, let's say, technical imagination of how it was. It's an interpretation. It's not the same as a restored painting where even a restored painting can also be a result of this, but with digital restoration, I personally think that it's even more so, that what is resulting from it is like a fabulation, you know, something that we create digitally to approach an idea or how we believe a work has been. So I guess that comes with a lot of responsibility of telling the audience what you have done with it and what led to this result. And that brings me to the second question, which is much more complicated to answer. And also I have to admit that in our workflow, we had a lot of limitations in terms of time and again also knowledge and experience. Maybe those of you who engage technically with film or those of you who do art are aware that each work is created in with a certain technique, right? And to be able to understand these techniques, you need a certain knowledge and experience. And I have to start by saying that this knowledge is very uneven within the team and possibilities where we work. So it was not possible for us to evaluate each splice. And we had less time to engage with the material because the material is very, very decayed and we had to try to hurry up and get it to scan because we understand that once we have a digital scan result, then the work will start, so to speak, of our interpretation. So I guess we did a lot of readings of the archaeological aspect, actually with the help of digitized file, because it was very difficult to come back to the material. Like alone to rewind it is horrible because we don't even have motorized rewinder. So what we did was that we tried to get it scanned as soon as possible, and in our editing timeline, reconstruction editing timeline, we would basically, Effie and I would view shots again and again and again and again, discuss what we could see and what we could deduce from the splice, from the logic of the story, level of information and make our decision that is documented in the table that you saw with different colors. Yeah, so this is, I guess, the most that we managed to achieve. I wish we could study the splices or the physical. No, because it's a good.
Sometimes there is nothing we can be sure of also in the splices. Sometimes the information is not there. In any case.
Yeah, but I would prefer to try more if we could. But yeah, I guess it's not always possible. Yeah.
And the informations are so much lately all the time. There is missing information all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, we are now facing that also because we are developing the documentation. So for you who are not familiar with art restoration, we are required to create a dossier of each restoration and if possible account for each decision that we make. So we are in the middle of finishing our documentation and we hope that we could also publish it because we are aware that there are so much strategizing that we had to do because of the limitations of everything, time, human resources, money. But we think that this case can also provide, an example to be discussed, to even reapplied in other similar contexts by fellow archivists or people who face similar challenges. So we are looking forward to finish our documentation and share it with the public. Thank you.
Maybe we could slowly finish the Q&A if you agree, the audience agrees. So we can, maybe, would you like to finish the session or officially?
So once again, thank you very much for your very inspirational talk and So we hope to maybe see you again or good luck with everything you do and let's just keep doing this.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you very much. It was our pleasure and again tomorrow there's the screening at 6 p.m. in Pongrepo.
For those of you who have time and would like to see where we embarked from, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.